My name is Mike Sang. I'm the Product Specialist Manager for Geomagic Solutions. We are the professional software content division of 3D Systems. And today, I am going to demonstrate one of our newest products, Geomagic Sculpt, along with the 3D Systems Touch. Specifically, we're going to look at how Sculpt can take our industrial designs to the next level. First, let's talk about Sculpt. What is it? Well, Sculpt is a powerful design program that is paired with the 3D Systems Touch. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about the Touch device a little bit later, but in terms of Sculpt, what makes it so unique is the ability to design in virtual clay and sub-D surfaces. This voxel-based technology allows you to create beautiful, shapely products that are ergonomic and aesthetically pleasing. Sculpt is the ideal tool for designing products that are curvy. It is the perfect complement to CAD software, which are focused on designing mechanical parts, the function and fit of the product. Sculpt, however, excels at designing complex organic shapes that are difficult or even near impossible to create in CAD. A great example is if you ever wanted to add that special touch or detail to your designs. With Sculpt, adding textures, embossing, and engraving shapes is simple and fast. And since we're using voxels, no matter how complex the geometry, you'll be able to shell the most difficult of designs, where CAD programs usually tend to fail. So let's switch gears. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that haptic device that I mentioned earlier. This 3D Systems Touch device plays an integral role to 3D Systems' idea of perceptual design. Now think about it. Most of the 3D design programs we use today use a 2D input. We're limiting our designs because we can only use a mouse or a touchpad or pen. And when 3D input technology arrived, it was sadly too expensive for everyone to enjoy. That is, until now. 3D Systems is democratizing this technology so that everyone can finally use a 3D device to create 3D designs. Apples to apples. Now anyone can capture the physical 3D world and digitize it with 3D scanning. Or we've even partnered with companies like Intel and the RealSense hardware, so we can use 3D natural movements and gestures to interact in 3D. And of course, we can actually feel our 3D design with our haptic device. That's real physical feedback based on our 3D models. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so this is a blown-up picture of the 3D Touch. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to turn on my webcam so you guys can see the device that I have here in front of me. One moment. All right, so your go-to webinar screen should now split into two. You'll see a webcam in one section and the PowerPoint in another. Then what I'm going to do is go make them split even if you're really interested in the hardware. And in the background, I'm now going to replace the PowerPoint with Geomagic Sculpt. Turn that on. So you should see a cube on your screen. And I'm going to show you guys how the virtual cube that I have in Sculpt reacts with the physical hardware that I have on my desktop here. What you're going to notice is that when I move the hardware, the Sculpt clay tool that I have on screen here that I've chosen moves along with it, right? So if I move up, it goes up. If I go down, it goes down side to side. And even if I rotate the pen around, it rotates its pen around in 3D space as well. Now on the bottom right of the screen, you'll see a side view. So that just gives you an idea of, so you can get a 3D perspective of things. But basically, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move my clay tool right into this cube. Too far. There we go. Right into this cube. And as I do that, sometimes I push a little too hard. As I do that, it's actually going to prevent me from going any farther. So I'm pushing against it, and you can see both on the screen and in the software, it's not going any farther. Now if I go ahead and move above the cube, I can now again move forward. All right, you can see that going on. But now since I'm on the very top of the cube, I can't actually push down. It's preventing me from going down any further. And to show that, I'm even going to let go. So I can let go of the device, the haptic device, and it's going to sit there and float up in space. You can come up here and give it a couple taps, and it's not going to go anywhere. But as soon as I move it to the side where the cube no longer exists, it's going to drop. You can see that there. And I can come down here and tap it, and that's because it's on the side, right? It's no longer touching that cube. So this is what's really awesome. You actually feel the 3D model that you see on your screen, and it's going to portray that feeling to the touch device. So, when we say you can feel your 3D designs, we're not joking. I can feel it. It's basically as if, I had this virtual cube here sitting in front of my part. So, preventing me to move forward or preventing me from moving on top. But instead of, having this physical cube sit here, it's something digital, right? So I can feel and touch it. This gives a whole new perspective to design. Being able to, feel the grooves that you're creating, to feel, your models, and get that exact aesthetic feel, so that when you make it, you already have a good idea of how your industrial products feel and how they flow. So, all right. And now on the top of the stylus, I'll try to move it so you can see in the webcam, there's a button. And when I press that button, it's going to go ahead and let me start actually carving into this clay. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the ball size so that we can see it. So as I push this button, now I'm able to actually carve into this clay. And this is where you start being able to really start doing your design. Now this is, of course, just a simple ball carving tool. I mean, there are more complex tools that we'll show a little bit later. But this is just the general basic demo, so you get an idea of the basics of the haptic. And again, as soon as I let go, it's still floating there in space. I can't go past it, but as soon as, again, if I press the button, I can carve into it. Now, when I press this button, I'm carving into this clay. It's not just free ride. It's not free reign. It's actually still resisting motion. There's the motors in there giving me force, letting me know that there is something that I'm carving into. So it's basically giving me the sense that I'm actually carving. It's pretty neat, and it gives us really nice feedback to how we're designing objects. All right, and that's basically the basics of the haptic device and how it interacts with the sculpting software. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut off my webcam so you guys can switch that back. One moment. So moving forward, with Geomagic Sculpt, you can finally achieve the industrial aspect of form along with your fit and function. Right? Sculpt creates aesthetically pleasing and ergonomically fit products quicker than ever before. Think about housings for electronics and assemblies, power tools, grips and bottles. Basically, all your consumer-type products can easily have a sense of style and flair that will put your product above the rest, especially in today's market, where looks pretty much is just as important as function. And what's great about Sculpt is that everything you create is ready for print. All right, so basically, you pair this with a 3D printer, and you'll be able to design something, with good form in minutes, and then have physical products or prototypes in hours, not weeks. Now that's basically revolutionizing the way that we think about doing prototypes or designing. Instead of taking weeks or even months, we can do this in days, and that's going to increase productivity by a whole lot. All right, enough talking, and I think I'm going to go ahead and jump forward and let's show you exactly what it means, so you guys know that I'm not jesting around here. So our first example, we're actually going to go through the whole workflow, at least from scan to design. I'm going to switch over to another webcam here, and it's going to show you, it's going to show you the Capture Mini that I have set up on my desk behind me. And what we're going to do is we're going to scan, you can see the picture on the bottom left, we're going to scan the innards of a remote control for a car. And then we're going to take that scan data, and then in Sculpt, I'm going to design a housing around it, the full workflow, and basically we'll have something that maybe it's design number one that we can then create some quick high-res pictures like you can see on the right, or send to a 3D printer and make sure that it all fits inside there, and then go for it. So we're going to show you that, and you'll see that it basically takes me 10 to 15 minutes to do this, from scan to design. So give me one moment. We're going to turn back on my other webcam. And while that's happening, you can see some specs on the scanner. Webcam. There in the middle is the Capture Mini. That's one of our newest scanners, released maybe a couple weeks ago. And it's putting down that blue LED light in a projected manner. You'll see patterns come down. And as it does that, it's going to be able to figure out the shape of the object that's in front of it. Now you can pair it up with our turntable that you see right there. It's spinning. I have that remote control sitting on it, and it's spinning automatically, so the scans are automatic. And you can even pair it with other Capture Minis, or even the Capture itself, which are original scanners that we released about a year ago. And that's you can actually see in the very, very upper right. It's sitting there and showing some scans as well. So you can pair them all together, do a multiple scanner setup, pair it with the rotary table, and you literally just hit scan and let it go. As I'm sitting here talking to you guys, it's doing its thing. It's going and scanning. And let me go ahead and zoom in on the scan itself so you can get an idea of what that looks like. All right. And what you'll see is that that pink is the last scan that I took. But basically, right there in front of our screen is the part that I was scanning, right? It only took, less than a minute for me to do that. And you can see how nice it is, kind of a hands-off approach to quickly create, or not create, but capture the physical world and get a 3D digital model of it. Part, again, of that perceptual design idea that we're talking about. 3D input for your 3D designs. After some quick merging, I'll show you what the final result looks like. Basically, it looks something like that. You can zoom it. So you can see that on screen. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up that piece that we're scanning, move it closer to the webcam so you can get an idea of what that looks like. I'll step away one moment, but you can take a look at that. All right, so you see it's great representation, and you'll notice that the part's black. Black's usually something to scan, but with these cameras, you can control exposure and be able to capture, black things as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and show what that looks like in Sculpt now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam. All right, so here is the software. You can see the scan that we took. I'm going to just adjust the side view a little bit out of our way. We talk about what we're going to do here. So there's the scan. Of course, I cleaned it up a little bit. With Sculpt, you can do some quick hole filling. Goes up at the top there, smooth it out, and of course cut out the stuff at the bottom that we don't need. But this is the basic shape of the internals of that remote that we want to create. All right, and then of course the challenge is, all right, here's the innards. The challenge is go ahead and make your casing, make the outside of it. Well, of course, if I were to do this in CAD, I could easily just make a box, right? Just make a quick extrusion box and cut some holes in it and be like, there it is. But that kind of look isn't going to sell very well. Even if I add a bunch of fillets and things, it's just not going to have a sense of style like we saw in that picture. So let's go ahead and create something in Sculpt that has more ergonomics to it and more better flow and aesthetics. And the way that we're going to do that is first we're going to start off with what we call a sub-D shape, all right? And sub-D, I'm going to just create a cube here, is subdivisional modeling. And it's basically, zoom out, an idea, it's basically taking a complex shape. So you can see the sphere here, and you see hopefully if you look real close, you can see all the facets that make that sphere, or that cube. And what it allows me to do is I'm able to manipulate all those shapes based off a simple cage structure. And I'll show you what I mean in a bit, but let's first kind of take this thing down to size. Right? We don't really need it to be that big. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly adjust some of the options here. So like 50, and the height, we'll do 80, and of course our Z doesn't need to be that much. We'll just, we'll go to 50. It's just eyeballing. I'm going to be able to adjust this later. Another thing that we can set is symmetry, and we're going to have this, make sure this thing is going to be symmetric about the Y axis, so it'll hit X. And one of the things that we can do is change the shape of the overall part as we're doing this. So I'm actually going to kind of make it a little more squarish. We don't want it to be so round. So something like that. All right, awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and start doing the manipulation. Now, what you'll see on screen is this cage that I mentioned about. You'll see that it's basically just a cube, right? But by adjusting this cube, I can actually adjust a lot of the part itself. So look at that. As I move this cube, you can see that dynamically the shape inside of it starts to change. Right? You can see the innards of that scan in there for us. So of course I want to adjust it so it's just in front of it, and we'll go ahead and just do that. And we'll do the same thing, make the top of it come down. But as I control and move this, I can, I'm using faces right now. I can actually do things such as pull, this line. And remember, I have symmetry turned on, so of course the other side's going to react as well. But see how easy it is for me to create and move around organically? It's pretty sweet. And even not every line, I can just do a simple corner of this, right? So if I take this point right here, I can move that, just the point. Now, and right now it's very simplified. I only have, again, 6 faces, but I can easily increase the number of faces, either in an automatic sense. Here I can do, that quick subdivision, or I can manually change that. But before I do that, let's go ahead and finish with resizing this thing a little better. What I'm actually going to do is I'll go ahead and make this see-through. There we go. That's a little bit easier to see what I'm doing, right? Especially that bottom. I can move the bottom part up now and bring it to there. Do the side of it, something like that. All right. So don't forget the back, right? Onto the there, and make sure that the back is also kind of shaped. So nice and easy, and quickly, make a shape. Of course, the part that we're dealing with is pretty squarish, so this is easy. But imagine if your internals weren't square. Think about it as if you had like maybe a power drill, right? The shape isn't square; it's the shape of a power drill. So you can easily manipulate this subdivision to make sure that it fits on the internals of a power drill. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off see-through now, just real quick, so we can see the general shape there. Looks like we're doing good. All right. Now let's start talking. Start making the details. Let's actually start, creating some form. Again, I'm going to turn on the see-through just so I can take a look at all the buttons, and I want to, because I'm going to want to change the way this thing feels according to those buttons. So again, hit see-through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding more of these lines, these interpolation lines here, because these are control lines, I should say. Because the more lines I have, the more control I will have over the shape. So to quickly do that, I'm just going to use this loop tool, which will create a loop where I basically click. And remember, I have symmetry turned on, so wherever I do put them, it's going to do some symmetry. And you notice that I can click anywhere along this line, but the software is going to go ahead and help tell me where some key points are. For example, this is right down in the middle, so maybe I want to do a loop there. And here I'm going to do one on the side, right to the left of that button. Which one should appear right to the right of my other button, just like that. So I'm basically going to corner off these buttons there for me. There's one. Maybe down here, just slightly. I'm just using freehand. You can be exact or not exact as you want, which is nice. There we go. Each of these lines, each of these points are going to represent something that I can control. And it's probably going to be a little offset here, so I'll make something here, just do that. Probably add another point in the middle as well, so that I can control the sides there. Add 2 more there. All right, something like this kind of giving me, I think that should be enough control points. All right, let's go ahead and make things visible again. We can see this stuff in action. All right. Now, if you recall, this over here is where my buttons are. So I'm actually going to just select these faces here. Okay. And again, I have symmetry on, so I don't have to worry about this other side. And I'm going to start adjusting the shape. So see how easy it is for me to create nice, cool, organic feeling designs. So of course I want this part of it to be inset a little bit, right? And then how about the button here in the middle? We're going to do that as well. There it is. Something like that. It looks like I forgot to save me pushing this thing back. No worries, I'll come back and fix that later. But just with a couple, just a simple couple pushes, you can see that the top of it's already starting to take shape. Let's go back and continue editing. I'll probably want to add a little space up top so that I can put, my key ring. So I'll just grab this top part here, bring it up, smooth it out a little bit. There we go. Things are looking good. Give it a little bit more round shape. Again, I'm just sitting here and moving things around into an organic matter. Maybe I'll, these corners are a little too sharp, so I'll go ahead and move that in, like so. And do the same here. Bring this in a little bit. So this is a great way to organically feel how to create your key or any of your products, right? So no matter what your design is, I can, this one I'll do maybe kind of a unique shape, right? I want to make sure our product is unique in some sort of way. So something like this. You can come in here and add some more definition up top. But as I'm doing this, I'm using my 3D haptic device to be able to, in 3D, design my part, right? And again, perceptual design allowing me to do things like I've never been able to do before. And on the fly, I'll add some of that. Something like this. All right, let me go ahead and adjust the bottom of this so that it's back in shape. Okay. It went too far there. Go. Of course, you have utilities to make sure, if I want to select only faces, I can do that. So I'm actually going to do that now. Select just the faces. Of course, I don't use these. I have all these top faces, and I can just push down on this. Again, quickly resize it. Just do slightly above. All right, now we have the beginning of our key. All right, let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, so we have the basic shape. It's definitely unique. Has some nice freeform curvature to it. And at this point, we can go ahead and start adding details. So the way that we're going to do that is right now we're in subdivision. We're going to go ahead and convert this into a voxels, clays. So we'll come in here and just simply say, all right, copy this into all right, here we go. Now we have a clay version of this. And what's nice about clay is this is where you can do things like adding grips, details, logos, and really, flesh out the aesthetics to your design. Right? So first thing first is we know that, of course, we're going to need to have this be hollowed out, right? Some type of shell. We can't just give them a solid body. We're going to shell it a little bit. So we'll go ahead and do that first, or at least do the first steps of that. And the way we're going to do that is creating an offset piece on the inside. Right? So maybe this thing will be, we'll say a millimeter. Might be a little thick, but let's make it nice and sturdy. So go ahead and do that. Just like that, we're going to see how fast it is. So you notice that no matter, it was fast, and here you can see the preview of the inside of it. No matter how complex the geometry, it's going to give you a result. It's going to work. So you saw that in the presentation. I had that, ogre face. That ogre face has lots of crevices, lots of interfering geometry. But once you're in voxels, you're able to go ahead and do things like offsets, either in or out without a problem, just because we're using volumetric type of technology here. So I'm going to smooth that out so the insides are nice and clean when we do cut that out. But, all right, so let's go back and look at our piece again, the outside piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the resolution because I'm going to start adding things like, grips and logo. So let's increase the resolution at least 0.1. And at this point, when you start doing these types of designs, there's a lot of things you can do that you'd be familiar with if you're familiar with CAD. Things like sketching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a plane, just plane up in our direction, just like that. And then I'll start doing some interesting areas where I can put my grips. So maybe like right here. So I'll just go in and using my 2D sketch tools, start creating where I want, maybe my grips to lie. All right. So let's do that. So maybe I wanted to do it like right here. This thing will have a transformers maybe. Something like this. Just go sketch. Yeah. Follow the graphic design. Something like that. And then of course we want symmetric, so I'm going to throw in some symmetry. Symmetrical lines there, here, there. All right. And we, of course, have trim tools. We can trim it up. And everything I'm doing, of course, I'm just doing freehand, but you can measure things out. Right? If I click on this line, I can see what that length is. So if I, 27 and some change, I can go ahead and change that to 27 even if I wanted to. Or, change the angles, make dimensions, things like that. So it's not all just freehand. There are measurements that you can be sure that you make as you do this. All right, so there I've made where I want the grip to go. And what you notice, of course, is that this is sitting on a plane in space, which is fine, but obviously I want to kind of use it for my part here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to project those curves onto my piece of clay. That's as simple as using that tool and clicking on these lines here. So I do that, you'll notice that there is now a curve sitting on my clay part. Like so. All right. And let's go ahead and add some type of grip to that. So I'm going to use the emboss tool and click right here. And just as fast as that, you can see a preview of the type of design that will be placed there. I can use some type of grip like this, or if I have my own design or I'm not happy with this type of grip, I can use any type of image file and use that as my basis for patterns. So, here I have ribs picked out. Maybe, I don't want ribs. Maybe I want, brick patterns. I think that's going to look good on key. Maybe some diamond bumps. There we go. That might look sweet. So use that instead. You can see how that change things. Maybe a little too large. I can increase it, kind of looks something like that. But just as easy as that, I can go ahead and create special designs based off of any type of design that I place on here. All right? So let's do something like that. Change the way the orientation looks a little bit. Let's freehand it here. You can type in the numbers here if you want to control the degrees. I'll just do this. Take a look at what that looks like. All right. Not bad. All right, so maybe I don't want to do the square like I had before. I think the square or the kind of circle thing makes it look a little too cartoony. But this is what's nice, right? In that instant, in just a couple minutes, I can make a design and be like, yeah, it's too, it's too, it looks too much like a face. This is not the design that we want to go for. We want to look for something else. So just with those couple minutes, I can quickly make design changes. So let's say, no, let's mix that idea and go with something a little bit more not so kid-like. So we'll just go back in here and say, like, all right, let's come back here and change this. Instead of having it be a face like this, let's go ahead and make it just a square. Classic. And we'll use that. And again, project it. Go here. And again, emboss. And maybe we will go with diamonds this time. Figure it out. Something like that. Take a look at that. In less than a minute, I was able to quickly do a design change and get something that I can take a look at. There's not too many softwares out there, if any, that you can do design changes that fast for patterns or things that unique. And I'm just using simple patterns here. It could be something much more detailed, and I'll show you a little bit of that a little bit later. But let's finish this off a little bit. Let's go ahead and add kind of a boundary to that grip. And using that same curve, I can create a piping. 10 millimeters is much. Maybe something like that. Cool. So I've got my grip here. What about the back side? Maybe you want to throw in a nice logo. And just as fast as you would expect, I can quickly come in here, again, pick out my company's logo. And say, yeah, I want to emboss with this, just the size. A little large. There you go. Maybe make it a little bigger. Nice. And have that embossed in the back. 1 millimeter might be too tall. Yeah, look at how easy it is for me to make these design changes. Great. Just like that. Now I have, a logo as complex as you want it to be there, put on the back of the part. All right, let's smooth this whole thing out. So there's not any sharp angles that will, the diamond might be a little too sharp, but smooth it out a little bit. There you go. All right, looking good. All right, so let's say this is, in terms of the design, this is the way I want it to look. This interesting shape here. But we still need to make the cutouts, right? So we have the scan of the buttons and the way they look like. Maybe this particular model, we don't have the CAD design too, so we can't import that in. So we scanned it just like I showed you. And now we need to go ahead and take, maybe a cross section of those buttons and use that to cut out the tool. And as you expect, it's pretty dang easy to do that. So let's hide the outsides of the housing, and let's create a plane that's going to cross section right there. Just a few quick buttons. Clicks. There we go. Here's a plane in the right direction. Let's go ahead and move it up cross-section right there. Great. All right. And planes are infinite. So what I'm going to do is do a cross-section. You can see that I've created quick cross-sections on the part. All right. Now, let's go ahead and project that up to the main sketching plane that I was using there. We're going to go ahead and use that as a cutout. So all we've got to do, go back to a 2D sketch, or actually a project curved plane here. You can see there are plenty of tools to do what you need to do. Just because this is more of an organic type of model doesn't mean you're going to be limited in the tools that are available to you. It's a very, very powerful piece of software. All right. Just like that, I now have my sketches. All right, let's turn back on our shape here. And I can go ahead and do an extrusion. But of course, if I were to do that, it would, I would expect that the buttons would fit perfectly, with the innards. Of course, that's not going to happen. I need some clearance, right? Now watch how easy it is for me to go ahead and do a offset. So come back here, do the sketch, click on the offset button, and I'm going to select that. Oh, let's make sure we'll do a distance of maybe 1/4 millimeter offset. Right? All right. Select on the sketch, point in the direction I want it to go, and faster than I can complete that sentence, I basically had my offset designs there. Again, really fast, really easy. All right? All right, let's go ahead and make that cut for us. We'll go ahead and say use this, and that. That. And we're going to go ahead and do a cut. We'll call it wire cut clay, but it's basically an extrusion. And it's going to extrude down to this bottom plane here. Of course, we don't want to do that. We'll just go somewhere like halfway or something. And we just ask it to cut. Here's the cut part. It cuts. You can see that even though I moved it with my haptic, I can actually type in the number here if I wanted to. So again, you have all the control that you would want. All right. So let's hide the inside scan. You see we got that cut there. And now we can finally go ahead and remove the inside. Remember we talked about hollowing it out? In the very beginning we did that offset. Here it is. All we just got to do a Boolean remove from piece 3. Okay. And hopefully you can see that. And it's nice and hollowed out. All right. At this point, I can go ahead and bring this to a 3D printer. Well, probably cut it in half. Then bring it to a 3D printer, or give it to the design team again, and they can quickly move forward with their designing process. So that was what, 15 minutes maybe, 10, 15 minutes to create. You can see that a little bit of a different design there that I did, less face-like over to the right. But I make some quick renders, and you can quickly see what that looks like. It's nice and fast. So, and that is the power of Sculpt for industrial designing. You're able to knock out these organic designs using either scans or converted CAD files and moving around it to do that. All right, I have at least one more thing to show you. Take a look at this. Doing industrial design is more than just being able to create the outside of electronics, the housing and some things. But adding just that little bit of detail and flair that's going to separate your products from the rest. So here we have this gardening tool, right? It's basically a weeder of sorts. And basically, this whole part can easily be done in CAD. There's no argument there. They basically revolve, and the top part is revolved with some type of extrusion and loft for the actual tip of it. But where Sculpt actually starts helping you is once you leave CAD, you can start doing more organic types of designs, just because of the way that how fast it is to do details such as embossing and engraving. So for example, look at one that I've already created ahead of time. Just adding a nice little grip like that. All right, sure, not too difficult, but you saw before how easy it is for me to make those design changes. I can change the width of those really fast, or do something more complex like knurl patterns or diamond patterns. Doing that in CAD is really time consuming. What about this? Let's go back to just a blank screen here. And let's do, maybe the idea behind this project is we need to focus it to a particular demographic. Someone, make it customized to a particular demographic. So let's add, something that would do that. So I'm going to do our embossing again. This time, we're going to wrap it in cylinder. I'm not going to do a logo. Maybe we're we're aiming for the women out there who want more feminist-looking tools. So just like that, I can go in and pick up a kind of nice flower design. And she goes around. I'll just have to, of course, adjust the height of it. So it's going to be about 100. There we go. Change the diameter. Closer. All right, now I have a general shape of the part of my strip. I have to might look good. Let's see. Let's do a preview. Look at that. That's good. Just that fast, I was able to go ahead and add a nice floral design. That's an engraving there to that handle. And I can just, for example, again, 3D print the handle, having hours, have something that looks like that. Try designing something like that. Try to do that type of engraving in CAD. That's pretty hard. At least it's time consuming. You can't do it in the 1 or 2 minutes that I just showed you there. And it doesn't stop there. You can do text. If you want to write something out and wrap it around, you can do that as well. Let's do a different design. Maybe instead of flowers and instead of women, let's move for the guys over here who like to garden. We'll do the same thing. So instead of flowers, let's pick hot rod. Yeah. All right. Show a preview of that. Sweet. Who's going to argue with you when you're like, hey, man, I have a tool, gardening tool, that has a sweet picture of a hot rod on it, right? Oh. Sorry, that was a pretty bad impression of Tim the Tool Man, but you get the idea. Being able to quickly create customized products, whether it be a gardening tool, a power tool, or a casing for any type of electronics. You're able to quickly make these designs fast and easy using Sculpt. Get those prototypes out there, get those renders out there. Cut down on the time that's taking to design, and you'll be able to make your product. All right, with that, we are nearing the end of our presentation here. Hopefully I've shown you that Geomagic Sculpt makes designing organic and shapely parts easy. CAD, again, is great for designing mechanisms and really the function of the part, right? Where Sculpt is great for designing the form, the parts of the product that you want to look and feel beautiful. At this point, I think I saw questions popping up. If you have questions, go ahead and start using the webinar there. You can start throwing chats, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. Can the Haptic device operate with other software? Currently, it is only with Sculpt for now. We have a lot of other third-party people that we are going after to use the Haptic device, so be on the lookout for that. Right now, it is only just for Sculpt. How secure is the part on the plate during scanning? This has to do with the capture mini there, that portion. The rotary table that I had it on has a rubber mat to it, so I just have the plate sitting on top of it. So in that sense, it's not very secure, but it's not going anywhere. If I had something that was, I guess, a sphere, for example, that would roll around, I'd probably want to secure that down with either some type of vice grip or I can use clay, things like that. How is Sculpt different from other Geomagic software like Freeform Plus? It's a great question. We have a variety of sculpting software tools out there. Freeform Plus is, is a much more higher-end version of the software where you're able to do things like, basically has the ability to do molding tools, being able to create molds and see draft analysis. That's one of the main big differences in the two softwares. And that version of the software also comes with a higher-end haptic, a little more precise than the one we have here. And of course, a major difference is the pricing. Sculpt is priced very, very low so that you can hit the market a bit easier, and so you guys can afford this type of technology. Again, we were mentioning about democratizing this technology, and that is part of it. So, file formats that we can import, STLs, OBJs, 3DSs, 3DS type of file formats are the main ones. I think there's a couple more. Let's see. There you go. You can see that there. And in terms of output, you can output to zip files, which are the rendering files for T-Shot. I guess I can show you. Export. STLs, OBJs, these are the type of file formats that you can, output to. All right. Great question that just came in. Does Sculpt have the analyzing capability for accuracy before printing? And what we'll do is down here in the utility, we have printability checking. And printability analysis basically allows you to go in and check your part for just that. What will happen before printing? And you can come here, you can see things like, will it fit in my printing volume? What about wall thicknesses? Will things be too thin for me to print? What about even the gaps? Will it gap or clearances for gaps? So things like that can definitely be checked. And the way that it works is you basically come in here and check which 3D printer, 3D Systems printer that you want to pick, and maybe if it's CubeX or the Cube 3, or even more professional series, right? 4500 or 6500, multi-jet, flexible. It's going to go ahead and select that. It'll change the properties so that it's checking for the correct printer. So you hit apply, and it's going to highlight in red or green what it's looking for. So absolutely, you can do that. I hope this was informative. I hope you got to see just how easy and fast it is to use Sculpt for industrial designing. Other than that, farewell. Thanks, everyone. Bye.